Hey, it's Jeremy from Jeremy.net. I am a comic book artist, writer, creator, self-publisher, and I share my creative process here with you online. If you'd like to support this channel, get additional bonus live streams twice a month, including this Wednesday, we've got our art book study group where we dig into some of the best art books around and try to suck out all the knowledge. You can join for as little as $2 a month. Head on over to patreon.com/Jeremy. That's patreon.com/GERIMI. There is a link in the description to this video. If you would like to get a free digital sketchbook, be able to get work in progress animated GIFs delivered right to your inbox, sign up for my monthly newsletter at newsletter.jeremy.net. And if you'd like to purchase physical copies of my comics, or if you read digitally on Kindle or Comixology, you can go to amazon.jeremy.net. They'll forward you to my Amazon author page. You can pick up books like my first graphic novel, Eye of the Gods. This book is a psychological thriller about a man cursed with visions he cannot control. It's black and white, 144-page comic. You can preview it at the book flip through that's on the homepage of my channel. You can also pick up my most recent project, Morningstar. It is the story of Lucifer's fall from heaven told as a Western. Volume 1 contains issues 1 through 4. Volume 2 contains issues 5 through 8, the conclusion of the series. Both of them have extensive back matter, character sketches, thumbnails, page layouts, script excerpts, and more. You can pick up all of that at amazon.jeremy.net. And let's get into it. So, continuing work on this Medusa piece. And I'll tell you, I thought I was going to sit down and actually get close to... I thought I was actually going to finish this piece at some point over the course of the week, and then just come out and show you guys the finalized piece. Hey, Ian Rocks is in the chat. What up, bro? Thanks for rolling in. I thought I was going to finish this piece, and I will tell you that I got almost no creative art time in this whole week. Other than my figure drawing class, I've had very, very little time to do any creative work. So really at this point, it's now just deciding what I want to do to really finish the piece. The main thing I'm doing right now is I'm going in, and if I turn off this layer mask, you can see, so I had that raking light that was going across the figure. And I realized I was trying to decide, do I want to have this front light? Do I want to have her backlit? Which one do I want to do? And I realized I was going about it the wrong way. And just by taking a closer look again at the thumbnail, the original thumbnail that I drew for this piece, you know, I do have both light sources, but the front light that's going across her torso, it's really only lighting up her figure, not the background. I was like, well, let me start by just following my thumbnail. You know, when in doubt, that's the reason why I do tons of thumbnails. It's just to solve the problems at the macro level, at the large structural level of the illustration. And then the details themselves will just kind of work themselves out. So once I remove that shaft of light from the rest of the background, the rest of this this zipatone pattern, this screen tone that I've got in the background, once I removed it from the light from that area and just restricted it to her form, I felt a lot better about how this looks. And so now it's really just a matter of doing things like, you know, that light was going across in a straight line. So it's like now going in and adding curves and contours, so it feels like it's wrapping around the serpent as well. So there's little places where I'm going in here. I don't want to call it grunt work, but it's kind of like small detail work. Now, on a larger level, one of the things I'm trying to decide is in terms of this backlight, do I necessarily want to... oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Do I want to keep this backlight with the white color that that's on there? And I am considering, let's see. Oh yeah, I threw a little screen tone back there of a different pattern, just to see how it looks. Yeah, I feel like that is almost a little bit of overkill. Not overkill, but I feel like it's an unnecessary distraction. In fact, I'm just going to delete that completely. Whoop, I duplicated instead of deleting. And what I want to do instead is play with changing the color of this background. In fact, let me see. Let me sample that color, duplicate this, fill that color. Now this is a lot darker and a lot more vivid. When I say vivid, I mean, I'm talking in terms of color saturation. It's a lot more saturated and darker than I want. So from here, let's see how this looks if I really crank back the saturation and maybe make it a little bit lighter. But I'm really trying to experiment with just a monochromatic feel for the entire piece to just sort of unify it. And I have to decide whether I want to do that just for this or whether I want to, because I'm also considering making the background, the dot pattern, into a cooler color to kind of contrast the warms here. But who knows? It might look good with the entire thing having warmth. In fact, let me create another layer here. And again, I might be getting close to my maximum number of layers. But let's see what happens if I do it over the whole thing. And again, playing with adjustment layers. See what happens if I go to multiply. I actually really like that, with the whole thing feeling kind of warm. I don't know. I don't need to decide in this very moment. I can play with it a little bit. Let's see how it looks if I go that cool color direction. Let's see here. What's weird is so many years of working on Photoshop, I've gotten very used to how the hue saturation works in Photoshop, where it's just very simple. I mean, the interface is similar to this, but let me see. That's going more towards red. So let's shift. So blues. Let's see what it gives us. I'm thinking something a little cooler and a little grayer, or a little more violet in it. So the other end of blue, but a violety blue. Let's see here, and let's dabble with the saturation a little bit. Let's see here. It's not bad. It's not bad. I'm on the cusp of it being too desaturated. And sometimes I like to say, well, what happens if I go too far? So let me push this a little bit cooler or a little bit more desaturated. All right, I think from here, I'm in about the right range because I can always come back and add more saturation in, recolor, readjust if I need to. Well, let's see what happens if I go full on gray. Yeah, I think it needs just a hint of blue in it. I think what's also odd is I'm working on the iPad. Still doesn't really tell me what this thing is going to look like in print. I'm probably going to have to print out a sample print of this, and then come in and tweak the colors and adjust them a little bit more. Let's see what happens if I brighten this up a little bit. Let's see here. Jake King is in the chat. Says, "What's good, brother? What's good, people?" Just chugging along, trying to adjust the background values on this piece. Let's see what happens if I shift it back a little bit more towards purple now that I've cooled it off a bit. Now that I've desaturated it a bit, maybe the purple won't fight as much. Yeah, I don't want to go full purple because it actually gets a little bit pinkish. Right around there, I think is pretty good. Now, I will tell you the one thing that I do wish Procreate had was that it would actually keep the hue saturation layers in a level as opposed to just you make the adjustment and it's done. You know, you get spoiled working in Photoshop and having that additional ability to go back, to re-edit, to change, and continue to manipulate, which I can. I can always go back and hue saturate this layer again. But the idea of keeping whatever the neutral original color I had behind it, keeping that color on, and still being able to go back and manipulate this gives an added level of flexibility. Now, I'm going to play a little. I'm trying to finish all of this stuff before I go in and paint the details, because I might get something where the color of the reflected light may change dramatically depending on what background I put in or what background tones I have. Like, for instance, I was originally trying to decide what color to make her eyes. So they're going to be kind of like Storm from the X-Men, kind of glowing and empty. And originally, I was going to go for sort of a yellow or a whitish color, whereas now I think it might be a cool desaturated blue. Like basically just using the sticking to the colors that are in this image we see right now. This very, very pale desaturated blue, and then the warms of the light that's raking across her torso. I still haven't really decided what I want to do value-wise with the serpents, in that making them darker than her skin. I feel that I should. I just haven't landed on a particular direction yet. And I'll tell you, this is an interesting thing. I actually had a lot of apprehension, I guess is the best word. I was actually anxious about doing this live stream because I was going to be coming into this piece. And before I sat down, like literally 10 minutes before this live stream started, I was like, I'm not sure what to do with this piece. It's not finished, but I don't know what to do. And, you know, as much as I say that I like to be willing to fail in public and, you know, sharing the mistakes I make as well as the things that I feel like I do that where I accomplish something, yeah, the idea of sitting here and just farting around and not knowing where I'm going and what I'm doing, that's anxiety producing. But just these little shifts, like, you know, playing with the background, it's starting to open up because now I see, oh, wait, I can use these values in the different areas of the skin tone. I can use these values in different places on the serpents. And then the, you know, the pale blue can become, it has essentially become my shadow color. So now any shadows that if I want to put reflected light anywhere in the figure, which I should do, I can do that with, that pale blue. And it really kind of like opens up what I can do with this now. Let's see here. Ion Rocks says try some. Oh, some Mobius-like texturing. I don't know if you saw the live stream where I was doing a Mobius a Mobius master study. It's someplace in the past like 6 months, I think. It's not a recent live stream, but someone asked me to do a Mobius live stream. I mean, a Mobius master study, and I did. I think the best I was capable of, but I don't think that it's necessarily something that. Let me get rid of, because I'm reaching my my layer maximums, so I'm going through it. I'm also deleting some layers that I'm not using. Let's get rid of this. Yeah, there's an extra dot pattern that I experimented with having. See, I don't know how well this shows up on the screen, but I've been drawing this without a screen tone on her. But I had experimented with the idea of having a screen tone on her body, which, and that's not saying that this is a bad way to go. It just, I didn't feel like it worked for this piece. And who knows? It might still be something where, as opposed to the one that has a gradient, there might be a it might be possible to put a screen tone on that's just a solid value as opposed to the gradient value that's in the background. Let's see, I also have a little, it's like a little white layer that's back there. It's interesting. I didn't realize how much that lightens up the whole thing, having that back there. It's interesting. I'm gonna have to decide how dark I want this to go, because I have a gray layer that's kind of my base layer that I was painting on. And now I see that that gray layer is actually significantly affecting how much overall value there is in here, because I've got the screen tone on multiply, so it's letting that layer behind show through. Um, hmm, hmm, hmm. I don't know. Let's see what happens if I turn this off. Well, then I lose all of the light. Oh, that was the other thing I wanted to see. I want to see how this looked if I had cool background, but I had had a warm light behind her, and she very much disappears with that warm light. So I am thinking that that's a negative here. I'm still going to tweak the values and see what happens if I lighten and desaturate this up, just because, I'm exploring options right now. And I guess it's funny because in exploring options, it does seem like well, I mean, obviously I'm not painting right now. I'm just moving sliders around. But this exploring different options, different values, different tones seems very much like it is an important part, for me at least, of figuring out what I want this piece to be, how I want it to come together. Yeah, this feels like it's moving away from the direction that I want. You know what? Let's undo this. And now instead of oh, because it's underneath the there we go. That's all it was. It was just underneath the purple layer, not purple, yeah, the blue background layer. So it was very muted. I was wondering why. I'm like, I thought this was supposed to be brighter. Now let's try that again and see if that looks a little bit better. I brighten this a little bit more and desaturate it a tiny bit. Let's see here. Just peeling a little bit off the top. Well, I'm still leaning towards the cool as opposed to this. Yeah, because there's just so much more contrast behind her. She really pops when you have that cool behind her. But for shits and giggles, let's duplicate this layer. And this time, let's go back here and fill with the light color. But I guess if I really, really wanted to go monochromatic, this would work. And there is something pleasant about it being all browns. Dare I say, I am actually slightly tempted to do this. But instead, let's see how it looks. I'm going to do the opposite now, where I'm going to duplicate that light. Let me turn all of these off, except for this one. Grab this color, go back to this, light it like that, turn the warm background on. So the whole thing could be warm with her coming out of it, with the only blue being the light that's raking behind her. Or I can have the whole thing monochromatic with light behind her. Or I can have it blue and cool with a cool light. Or I can have it blue with a warm light behind her. It's tough to say. It's tough to say. I think that this is one of those. Oh, you know what's weird is that when I'm done, when I get finished with this piece, I'm going to look at it and I'm truly going to be like, no, dummy, that was the obvious choice all along. I think there is an obvious right choice. And I think just because of the fact I didn't come into this live stream with an answer in my head already of what I wanted, that's the only reason why I'm so wishy-washy about it. Just looking, thinking, looking, thinking. It's not sexy, it's not exciting. But sometimes that's what you have to do to solve a piece, is just sit and look and think. I mean, originally I was going to start by saying, I don't think that there's a wrong answer here. But I think that there is a wrong answer here. And it's just a matter of me deciding to stick with the right answer. So this is what I'm leaning towards. I'm really leaning towards definitely blue framing her face. It's just a matter of, do I want the way that that warm color kind of pulls the whole rest of the piece together, or do I want the contrast that the cool color gives us? Let's see here. Iron Rock says reddish hues over bluish hue really stands out. Yeah, just trying to decide on background color. And the funny thing is that when I switch to a warm backlight as opposed to the cool backlight, for some reason it feels like it makes the background feel airier, like there's more air, there's more volume in it when I've got that on. Now what I could do is I could stick with the cool color. I could stick with the warm that's in the interiors and use that the blue backlight and work that into the shadows as reflected light. I mean, to be honest, I can do that regardless of which background I use. And again, there's that graying it down and keeping it dark. At a certain point, I just need to decide what I want to do, shit or get off the pot. I kind of like both of these, damn it. See what happens if I start. This is going to start getting possibly very muddy very quickly. If I start turning the opacity down on the brown so the blue starts bleeding through. Yeah, I don't think that's attractive. No, I kind of got to go one or the other. All right, for now, we'll stick with the cool. Again, digital, there's always a chance to go back to play with stuff. Anyway, let me paint on this layer mask a little bit more and work on the serpents a bit. Live streaming for a half hour, didn't draw a damn thing. Oops. Forgot that I'm drawing on a layer mask, so instead of erasing, I got to switch from black to white. Let me bring that brush size down a little bit so I've got some more control. So at this point, it is just sort of, it's rendering really. I'm just going through and picking the areas where it seems like the form should be turning and where adding shadow will support what I'm trying to describe with the form. I still haven't even really decided what I'm going to do in terms of the light areas, because a part of me wants to come in with line art, and part of me wants to just come in and paint. So I'm painting shapes. Which, I mean, line art, you're still, making shapes, but I think the distinction is making shapes without a containing line. Making shapes either have soft edges or hard edges, and the edges are describing the nature of the turn. I mean, just the fact that, like, right here, I've got this shadow as a very hard edge, when a snake being a cylindrical shape, realistically, there should be a transition of values there. But drawing these values in with hard lines is kind of like a starting point for me. Maybe I will come in with the brush tool or airbrush tool, the soft brush tool, and soften some of these edges, make them feel more rounded. Or maybe I'll just come in on my layer where I'm painting lights, and then as I get closer to the edges, just go darker and darker and darker until I make a smoother transition. I haven't decided yet. And it's funny because for as much as you guys have seen how I'm an obsessive planner, you admitting that I am, I mean, I don't feel like it's a defeat to admit it, but I still feel like there's so much of this piece that I'm working on right now that is unplanned, where I'm just sort of making it up as I go along. And I think I need to take the stick out of my ass a little bit and enjoy the fact that I don't quite know where this piece is going, because I think that for a lot of artists is exciting. That you don't want to feel locked in to every single decision. You want to have some freedom to play and to invent on the canvas, whether it's digital or traditional. And I'm so locked down into this whole idea of working everything out beforehand that I might be denying myself some of this serious pleasure of just finding my way through the piece. And I guess to some degree, part of it might be a self-imposed pressure that I feel like, if I'm working on a live stream and I'm drawing a piece that I've been working on for months now, I'm like, I should just wrap it up and move on. But if it's not done, it's not done. And I feel like there's more for me to work out in this piece. And to be honest, I don't really need a layer mask for this. I could just be painting these shadows by themselves on a layer and just paint some out, put some back in, paint some out, put some back in. I mean, the layer mask itself is almost like a placebo to make me feel like it's okay to make mistakes. When in truth, when you're making art, it's full of mistakes and corrections. going down blind alleys and having to find your way out of them. I'm so concerned with showing you guys how I work that I have not been showing you guys any play. And I might be learning a lesson myself here that I need to play more in the process. Look at that. I'm learning from you guys. I should loosen up and have some more fun with this. I had mentioned to you guys that I had taken some painted thumbnails from the dragon piece I was working on for my wife, and I put them up on my wall next to me, kind of as a visual reminder of how I solved that painting process. And the truth is though, even though all the thumbnails I did, it's not like they're any particularly awesome thumbnail, like a standout piece. I look at those sometimes and I'm like, they're loose and they're fun and they're free, even though they're very rough, but they're fun. And I want to figure out how to make my finished colored pieces have that same energy that the thumbnails on my wall have. Let's see here. Ion Rocks says, yes, play. But tries to have some fun with it. And now it's just implying form with shadow. Trying to grab that sense of a top and a bottom and a side. And I left a little sliver of light on the right underside of this serpent, right over here, to try and convey the sense that he's somewhat cylindrical form and that you're getting a little bit of that light hitting on the underside of him. But whether I'm going to keep that or not is in question, because what I'm trying to imply, I don't know for sure if that is going to be conveyed in this piece or not. I'm not sure if it's going to come off that way. And then I want to come over here and round this. Oh, I gotta make that brush smaller. Just want to round this so you feel like the light's wrapping around the cylinder. I should be referencing either James Gurney's Color and Light book, or probably more accurately would be something like I have a copy of Scott Robertson's How to Draw book, and I have not sat down and really dug into it. I flipped through it. I haven't really sat down and dug into it because his books are extremely scientific. They're very, very thorough, And they're full of great information for illustrators, but they're so, I don't want to say that they're dry, but the amount of information there is just, it's technical. It's very, very technical. And I think I have a hard time wanting to dive into something so technical when even now I feel like I'm not having it as much, like just me saying I need to get back into playing a little bit while making a piece. But I bring it up because he talks a lot about shadows and light, as well as James Gurney, and the idea that I've got these cylinders, and the proper way to wrap shadow around them so it is describing form as opposed to, oh, I just threw a shadow on this. I'm working intuitively, just in terms of trying to make something feel round by putting a cross contour around it. Whereas in books like I mentioned, Shadow and Light and Scott Robertson's How to Draw, they are telling you very specifically, no, don't imply, very clearly describe, and they show you how to work it out. And I haven't done that homework. And the thing that I mentioned on Patreon, the art book study group, one of the places that really, the main place that came from is I've been thinking so much about how many art books I own and how if I actually took the time to study from the books that I own, I'm like, how much better would I be? Like we always complain, we, the collective we, artists, always complain that we're not as good as we'd like to be. And if I were to just sit down and really study from all of these art books that I own, I can't help but feel, oh, the answers to everything I'm looking for are in these books. I just haven't been using them. So the point of Art Book Study Group is to start using them. It's going to be the piece that time forgot, taking so long to finish it. I mean, it's not like anyone's waiting on me to finish this piece. There's no deadline. But yet, for some reason, I still feel this unusual pressure to hurry up and finish this piece, move on to another one. Like I've always got to be showing you guys something new, And maybe that is a pressure that is a self-imposed pressure. Let's round this over her shoulder a little bit. I actually feel like this on her deltoid side, actually, if I go back over here, I feel like this should actually curve out a little bit more and then come back in, just in terms of the shape of the shoulder muscle. And the difficulty is that I want to make it subtle. I don't want to make it like, oh, there's this big, massive, bulging shoulder muscle. But when I come back in here, a bit of highlights, I do want to imply that there is a rounded muscular form there. And by the same token, getting down here, applying a little bit of that tricep back there. Trying to do just a little bit of anatomy with very simple shadow. See, Elon Mudd is in the chat. What up, man? How you doing? Thanks for rolling in. Just doing the hard labor. You know, and it's funny talking about the art book study group. You know, I have a few different books on comic book coloring, digital coloring. There's a great book by Brian and Christy Miller from Hi-Fi Coloring that I bought years ago. Have not cracked it open. I mean, I flipped through it, and I mean, I bought it on the strength of their work. Like their professional work is top-notch comic book coloring. Like they're, you know, one of the premier coloring houses in the comic book publishing. And the work inside of their educational book shows that. And it's another case of me having a very great tool at my disposal, and I just haven't been using it. And then looking at myself and saying, well, who can I blame if my work is not where I want it to be? If I'm given great tools to improve my craft and I don't use them, I don't have anybody to blame. I can't go around blaming other people for your stupidness. You shouldn't anyway. It's not good form. Let's see here. Elon says, good bro, how are you? I am doing quite well. I just, you know, it's funny. The beginning of this stream was me I wouldn't call it an existential crisis, but it was just me not sure where I was going to go with this piece and what I was going to do with it. And I just took some time, played around with it, and talked my way through it. And now I feel like I've got a stronger direction for this piece. It's coming along. And I see UL is in the chat. I haven't seen you in a hot minute. How you doing, man? Thanks for rolling by. He says, are you in the adjustment of design? That is exactly where I am. With this live stream, I started with playing with a bunch of adjustment layers, just trying to figure out what values I wanted for the background. That little light that's behind her seems like it would not be very much trouble, but I spent a ton of time trying to play around and just figure out what tone, what color I want that to be. And hey, Amar is in the chat. Says, just lurking. Good day to you all. Good day to you. Good day to you all. Thanks, man. Always good to see you. Good to hear from you. Elon says, are you going to sell prints? Yes, absolutely. This is something that I think I may have briefly talked about it in my goals for 2022, and it was in my goals for 2021. But my idea was not that I'm going to stop making comics, but it takes me so long to create comics, to create an issue, that I was going to tell myself I wanted to try the idea of um, spending more time making prints and see if I could make release like one print per month. Because at that rate, hopefully I'm producing enough and have enough of a following that I can actually start generating regular revenue from those pieces. Do a print, but design it so that it can be also done as a T-shirt and a mug and a few other things. And then I can say, all right, well, now this is becoming more profitable. And based on that, that could hopefully, if I can turn that into a profitable aspect unto itself, that could finance me having more time to make comics. But as you can see, that whole theory does not work well when I spend like 6 months on one print. When you're doing it that way, the system doesn't work that well. So we'll see. It is still a work in progress, as is my entire life. I mean, and also there's times when I think about it and I think, this whole thing of doing this other stuff might be. I go back and forth because on one hand, I think if my day job is an enjoyable day job and it fulfills the financial needs that I have, that my family has, then why worry about it? Just make comics. And if they become profitable, they become profitable. If they don't, they don't. But at the same time, there's the idea of just wanting to control your own destiny and feeling like building up another revenue stream. And the fact of the matter is this: I love comics. I think most of the people that are in here love comics. But in the world at large, there's definitely more people hang prints on their wall or buy T-shirts and mugs of artwork that I think is cool than actually read comics. Reading itself, like not even comics, but just getting people to read, I feel like it's a struggle to get people to spend time reading for pleasure. Kids definitely seem like they never want to read, and so I'm wondering if the whole just put my energy towards comics and nothing else, if that's foolish because it may never be the thing. There are always going to be comics. There's going to be your Hellboys and your sagas and stuff that's going to break out. But for most people, it's going to be going to be Howling in the Wind. And it's not something that I'm saying, oh, this is what I've figured out about the comics market. This is me talking out loud about sort of an existential crisis that I have about making comics versus making comics versus making other forms of art that I can monetize. And I don't feel like I've come up with a good or a permanent, a definitive answer for myself, because it also may be that it depends on the artist. Some artists might trying other mediums might be a full waste of time. And they're like, no, man, just stick to comics. While some artists might start doing T-shirts and prints and make gangbusters and be like, oh my God, I can just do this and do my comics when I want to, where I want to, whatever format I want to, because I'm making enough from this business that I've started that I can afford to pursue my art. Yeah, it's kind of hard to wrap my brain around because I don't know the answers yet. But I will tell you that the answer of taking forever to finish a print is not conducive to me using that as a way to just fund all of my other creative endeavors. But I think, like with any other piece of work you attempt, the first things you try may take a while to accomplish. So the idea that I'm taking much longer with this print than I initially anticipated, I do need to be forgiving of myself to some degree. And maybe after I've cranked out a bunch of them and really get a system down, much like with comics, I got to the point where the only reason why I was slowing down and working on Morningstar is because I was being more of a stickler for fixing mistakes. But in terms of my actual capacity to draw pages, I definitely think I got faster by the end. And how's that for a kick in the nuts? The fact that like you get faster at drawing, but you see more mistakes as you get better. So it's just like a double-edged sword. See here. Elon says, I have to have a print of this. Well, dude, I will definitely be making prints available once I get it wrapped up. And to be honest, I'm thinking about kind of revamping my entire print shop right now. I've got like 3 different sizes on there. I'm thinking about just dropping it down to 2 different sizes. I just have a large high-end tier and then a lower 8x10 tier. See, I've been looking at so many crowdfunding campaigns. I talk about everything in tiers now, even when I'm just talking about price points. Let's see here. So this seems like it's kind of working. I think I do need to figure out what I'm going to do with these snakes in terms of value. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to slap another layer on top. That's going to be just the snakes. Well, to be honest, I don't need to slap another layer on top. I can just, I don't really have a flats layer. But I can create. The real question is, do I want to just do that on the skin layer that I have here, I think. Just deleting some layers I don't need. Let's see here. UL says, maybe do some simple adjustments to the same image and make a set of them. That is a possible idea. I could very much do that, and I may consider it. And UL also says they do want the story in an image more so now. Very true. Elon says, well, bro, you have an undeniable talent built on your fan base here, and your comics will take off. I appreciate that. Thank you. I do try to convey a sense of story in my standalone images. The guys are having a laugh in the chats. Yeah, Iron Rock says yes, visual storytelling. I mean, I think some of the best artists, like you look at somebody like Howard Pyle, and all of the illustrators that have followed and studied from him, and just how much, with a standalone image, they're trying to convey some sense of drama. And yeah, I don't have another element that she's acting against or interacting with, because that, to me, sometimes that really is what conveys the drama. It's not just the piece, but it's who that piece is engaging with. That sense of a moment right before some action or after some action. Pardon me, gotta blow my nose. I mean, hell, it might be nice to try and do like a set of prints that almost convey like an entire graphic novel. One of my favorite works of art of all time is a 24 painting series by Peter Paul Rubens called the Medici Cycle. It tells the life of Marie Medici, and there's a whole lot of political, like European political drama wrapped up in the pieces that she did. I mean, in the piece that Rubens did, because for as much as she tried to make herself look like a very high and noble and lofty queen, there's a lot of political drama and backbiting involved in her reign as queen. And then she was kind of estranged from her son for a while. The marriage to her husband, they made it look like she tried to make it look like he was the love of her life, but it was very much a political marriage. There's a whole lot going on in there, but it's 24 giant paintings that look like a graphic novel. And I got to see these there at the Louvre in Paris, and I got to see them years ago. I took a trip to Paris, and the Louvre was obviously one of my major stops. And it was a fantastic trip. And getting the opportunity to go there and see those pieces was astounding. All right, instead of playing with the other layers, I'm just going to duplicate this. I am going to fill this with black. And now I'm just going to, well, that is ironic. Oh, wait, well, I just need to fill in these other pieces now. And instead, I'm just going to cut away. So I was going to try and go in with the lasso tool and just lasso, 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 delete, delete. But I think instead, I'm just going to come in here and just erase. Now, the only thing that worries me about this method of just going in and erasing as opposed to using the lasso, is that it would be very easy for me to miss some spots. And then when I'm going and I'm rendering on top of the serpents, it might have some parts of the skin tone still selected, or it might not have all of the pieces that I want selected. In fact, now that I look at this, I think probably the better way to do this is to use the lasso, but use it in a reductive way. see here. Elon also mentions possibly doing a trading card set. That is another possibility. All right, just so you know, we are at a little bit over an hour now. I'm just going to go through and try and finalize these selections to the serpents. And maybe play a little bit with what kind of color and value I might shift them to. And then we're going to wrap up this stream. Yeah, so I'm just going through here and cutting out all of the places that everything that isn't a snake. It does take a certain level of meditative calm to stay focused on stuff like this because, you know, most people's minds, especially the creative mind, tends to wander. It'd be really easy to just get bored while you're working and your mind just goes off on whatever tangents it goes off on. Just checking on what is and is not selected. I'm looking at the shadow that I have that's cast on the serpent that's below her neck, kind of running below her collarbone. And I'm wondering if that shadow is too big and that maybe I need to reduce it significantly. I think it would look weird if I eliminated it altogether because I do feel like with the strong lighting that I have here, that it would cast a shadow behind her or cast a shadow onto her breast or her upper chest. But I may have pushed it a little bit too far. Coming along, it's a little bit better. You know, and I wasn't planning to make these snakes this dark, but I actually really like how they look. I mean, to be honest, the snakes look as dark as I intended for her skin color to look. So I may even play around with reversing this and making her skin color darker and the snake's lighter. I don't know. Mm, mm. Now it's just a matter of clipping out her head. This is the sexy work of making art. Dot selections, deleting little pieces of skin tone bit by bit. This is where the rubber meets the road, folks. So we separate the adults from the children. So now here's the question. Now, originally, I've still got my thumbnail in here. I mean, in the thumbnail, there's not really much distinction between how dark she is and how dark the serpents are. So, I mean, I have room to play with making the serpents darker, lighter, or just making it a color contrast thing, making the serpents warmer or cooler. Now, the problem is if I make them cooler, they will feel more like they are part of the background, which has a cooler feel to it. So, what I can also do, first off, let's bump these serpents to full black. Well, to full opacity, really. Now, let's start by saying, let's take a look at this at 50% opacity again. Now let's see what happens if we flip these so that her skin is the darker tone. And serpents with a lighter tone. Let's see here. Yeah, Iron Rock says a poster. Yes, that's the print that I'm gonna make. I think that I'm gonna make them. I think I'm gonna offer the prints in two sizes: 12 by 18 and 8 by 10. Although I've been thinking about just going to 12 by 18 period and just having just that size. Let me know, you guys, if you really think that it's worthwhile to offer a smaller 8 by 10 size, because that's something I've been kind of debating over. Because to some degree, I feel like picking right now I have like 3 different print sizes on there, and I have a place that does the print fulfillment for me. So it's not a problem offering too many sizes. it's more of the fact that I feel like giving so many options is actually slowing people down in terms of like making a purchase. And I very much am thinking that maybe I should just pick a size and stick with it. I also notice here while I'm let me turn that layer off and go back to this light layer that I have. I need to add a little bit more rounding on this serpent here. Now, I feel like this cuts into the serpent, into the light area too much, but I feel like I need this shadow to come forward more to really separate the serpent from her shoulder. It's not creating a full-on tangent, but it's very close to a tangent. And just by making this shadow a little bit bigger, I feel like that separates these two forms. And while I am at it, pull some of this in. I was saying before that I felt like this was a little bit too much of a shadow underneath. It's not that there should be no shadow, but that the amount of shadow I put on there, I feel like it's a bit extreme. All right, that's a little bit better. So now I was going to take her skin tone, duplicate that. And now let's see what happens if I drop this. Let me just mimic the exact same scenario, which is just making her, for her skin tone, 50% opacity there. And then taking the serpents, turn these on and going lighter. So let's, oh, that's what it's going to do. I was going to start by just saying, all right, what happens if I just fill this with a warmer color? Say red. I know, this is going to be kind of nuts. I'm going to knock this back down to to an orange color. But I'm just starting with red to start at an extreme and then try to dial it back. Although I will tell you, these vivid ass red serpents, this is definitely not what I'm going to go with, but it does look kind of cool. All right. Now, see, the problem that I've created for myself is that her skin tone right here actually looks like what I want her skin tone to look like. However, the value of the entire piece is so dark that it's hard for her to read. That helps with a little bit more light. But I can also cut the dark tone that I've laid over, cut that down to say 40%. Yeah, I like that. Like this skin tone is more of what I had in mind. But the challenge that I'm sitting trying to balance is her skin tone versus the value of the entire piece. That it's so dark that a lot of the detail doesn't really read. But I do really like this range, and I'm only lightening it not out of any type of um, prejudice towards a more of a high yellow. It's more of I'm thinking about the values of the piece. So I definitely want her, I think, darker. That was the problem I think I had with this base color, is that they do feel like African black features, but still the value is pretty light. And this feels a little bit more like what it should be. Like this is closer to what's in my head. And I may have to just go with having the background turned off. Or it might be having the value that I have up here, but desaturating it a little bit. I don't know. I need to play with this a little bit. Something in there. All right. So now the serpents. Let's see here. UL says limit the sizes, and Elon agrees, and Elon says I want my print signed too. Well, here's the thing. I have a fulfillment house that's doing it for me. So what I might do is I may do a limited edition of like 10 or 20 that I will sign. So the whole point of me using the print service that I use is that having a place that fulfills it for me, does all the shipping, frees me up that I can focus all of my time that I'm not at work. I can focus it on making art. Because if I, believe it or not, packing prints, shipping them, doing the, clicking the mailing, all of that, it does take time. And if you have a few orders a day you have to ship out at a certain point, you're going to run out of time to actually make the creative stuff. So using the place that I'm using for fulfillment will free me up where I just make the design, upload it, and they handle all of the printing delivery. But with people who specifically want a signed version, I can just make a very small, limited number. They'll get shipped to me, and they'll be signed and numbered, and obviously certificate of authenticity. So yeah, I will keep that in mind as a particular point, because the difference is that for those, I'll have to actually order those and get those shipped to me first, and then I'll have to reship them out. So that's the only real difference with the signed editions, the limited edition. Maybe what I'll do is I'll do the edition to order. I don't know whether Kickstarter would be the way to do it, or I'll have to look at how other people release timed print editions. But people do it's pretty simple. I can just put the order on my website and just say, okay, this is how long the edition's going to be open for. Maybe it's going to be open for a day. Maybe it'll be open for 3 days. Maybe it'll be open for a week. But just tell people, here's the print. Here's the edition number. The edition number is going to be based on how many orders it is. So once I get to the end, I close off orders. I get those printed, shipped to me, sign them all, send them out, and that's it. So if only 10 people order it, then it's a limited edition of 10. Um, if it's if 100 people order it, that's a limited edition of 100. But I'm gonna basically do it. I think that's the way to do it. Is to do it where I do the sale from my store, but I don't have the printers ship them out. I have them printed to ship them to me, and then I'll do all the signing and the certificates and such. All right. So this. All right. We're getting off into a side tangent here. Talk about business stuff here, which we're always open to that talk. But I was going to try and wrap this up. So let me see if the last thing I can do here before we call it a day is adjust these snake values. And you know, Elon, I really appreciate that. You said you need it signed. Said I can wait. Take your time. I can wait as long as I know it's coming. Well, I will definitely. When I end up doing these timed prints, I will try to do it expeditedly. So I'm not going to just sit on them for months and months and months. I'm going to try and make it something where I let everybody know, put them on sale, and then try to get them fulfilled as quickly as possible. Now, whether I want to run a Kickstarter campaign for that or not, that still stands to be decided. I haven't decided that, or something to think about. But anyway, first things first. The saturation way too high. Let's knock the saturation down about 30%. Knock the brightness down also about 30%. Now let's start playing with hue. And we're going to move this closer to her brown. So we're going to, her skin. So what I'm trying to do is move it. Now that's going the other way. I'm going to try and move it towards an orangey color. And notice, as soon as you shift into the real oranges, it very much turns brown because that's what brown is. It's a muted orange. Let's see what happens if I bring a little bit more of the saturation back up. A little bit more of the brightness up. That's in the yellows. You know what? Let me go back to saturation and brightness both at about 50, like right in the middle. Ooh. I do think that actually looks kind of cool. So I'm gonna look at two different aspects. Okay, actual snakes having green there. We're gonna come back. I'm gonna look at two different possibilities. As a matter of fact, let me just work on this right now. Now that I'm in the greens, I see how it looks. Let me work on a green version and an orange-ish version. So let's take this now, and this will bring the brightness down, kind of a foresty green. Pull out a little bit saturation. And sometimes I wonder, am I actually being too timid with the values? Because the whole point of doing kind of modern day illustrations that we can do colors that are surreal, and I might be fighting so hard to try and do something that feels naturalistic that I might be going against the whole point of having these digital tools, like using these digital tools, but then trying to make something, fighting so hard to make it look naturalistic, when instead I could just go crazy and have some really dark, nutty values. I wonder if I have this set on multiply, because when I go real dark with the brightness, it immediately goes from, when I have it down to an almost black, it just turns brown again. So I'm wondering if I have this on this layer on multiply. I need to go back and check. Oh no, I don't have it on multiply, but I think I have it on 50%. Do I? I don't know. Let's see here, dark, dark. So right in this range. It's right before it starts shifting from greens to browns. And I want to shift it just on the other side of that. Right around here. Yeah, the opacity is set. Okay, no wonder the opacity is at 49%. Let's see what happens if I kick this opacity. There we go, back up to 100. Let's see here. More comments in the chat. I see Mark's showing up here. It says, nice piece, Jeremy. The composition flows very nicely. My eyes are dancing smoothly across the image. Very kind words, Mark. Thank you so much. He says, yes, the brighter orange looks more like sunlight. Yeah, this, I think that sitting here, I knew that there was going to be a point where I was going to have to play with the values and really try to, dial it in. And I think I was probably afraid of that process, only because I don't know how entertaining or interesting that is to people. But I pride myself on sharing the not sexy parts of making artwork. So now let's see what happens if I take this brightness. Whoa, okay, that went down to black very quickly. So let me see what happens if I now desaturate this a little bit. Now I think that I'm in a danger area simply in that now I have this so dark that the serpents that are above the shadow, that we're losing them completely. So what I might have to do is maybe have these go super dark and then paint lighter values. The ones that are up top, I may have to come in and paint value onto them and lighten them up so that they stand out. Because I definitely want the ones that are lower, the ones that are in light, I want to have that nice contrast. Let's see here. Or to be honest, I could just undo and go back to the low opacity. Because that's why I realized that they were turning into the skin tone underneath. That I was like, oh, obviously I've got it set at a 50%. So this gives it a nice army green. It also kind of mixes with the tones beneath. So I'm not final on this in terms of what I want to do with it, but let me duplicate this again, turn that off, and now let's try this in reds. So let's go back to the hue saturation again. Let's see here. J King says all good. Cassiel's in the chat. How you doing? Good to see you, Cassiel. We're almost done here. I just wanted to spend a little bit of time trying to tweak and finalize the base values for the serpents here. And I guess honestly, I want to finalize it because the fact that I've got you guys here, I can get your opinions and see which ones you like best. So let's see here. We've got this warmer now. That looks like brighten these up a little bit and increase the saturation. I do have to tell you that some magenta snakes would look kind of cool. See, and this is the weird part. My natural propensity is to not use realistic colors at all, but I've been trying to force myself to into this cold steel, almost gunmetal gray. And I know I said I wanted to keep it away from blues because I was afraid that it would blend in too much with the background. But I like you. All right, so I'm going to show you 3 different options, and I'm going to ask your guys' opinions. And I'm not going to settle on any immediate decision because if you guys watch the replay, people who watch the replay may come in and also have some votes. We'll see where things are at over the course of the week. I'll check in with people's answers. In fact, I'll tell you, I was hot and heavy about trying to finish this piece by the next live stream so I could just show you, look, it's done. But I'm thinking it might be better to get your guys' opinion on which of the colors you really like, and then continue rendering from next week. So we've got 1, 2, let me duplicate and give us one more. And this one is going to be the reddish values that I was looking at. Crank that saturation up, move this over to a little bit darker, maybe peel back on that saturation a tiny bit, shift towards orange. I think the green is interesting just in that I'm at least making an attempt to do something that's, I mean, yeah, there are red snakes, but attempting to do something that's even remotely naturalistic. Now, mind you, to give you an idea of where I'm going with this, no matter what color I choose for the serpents as the final color, I'm going to go in and add some very subtle modeling light to her skin tones. The snakes are all going to have little glowing eyes, and then her eyes are going to glow. She's going to have some reflected light from the sunlight on the undersides of her facial features, and then some reflected blue light in her arm and her left side of her body. So that's kind of where I see this piece going, no matter what value, no matter what hue I go with. So let's see here. You guys are, you know what? It would be really easy for me to start becoming egotistical because you guys are really very, very kind in the praise for this. You know, Elon says that was badass. Let's see here. Mark's telling Cassiel, you know, I'm enjoying listening to Jeremy's thought process while drawing my artwork. You know, that's one of the things I love about this live stream is the idea that we're all just hanging out, drawing, painting, doing whatever we're doing. And it's like we're all in the studio together. It makes the creative process, I think, a little bit less lonely, having that feel of a virtual studio. In fact, I don't know what his time schedule is like. I got to reach out to Peter Palmiotti and see if I can have him on the live stream again at some point. Although I think he said he was backing away because he just has too much to do. He's kind of backing away from social media. But I have to give all credit to Peter Palmiotti and his original Studio Synergy live stream he used to do. Where he full on had a bunch of people on the screen talking, drawing. So I want to give credit where credit's due. Let's see here. Mark says these color choices are all very compelling. Makes one almost want to do them all. It's got the laugh. And Elon also says, good call. Well, you know what? who knows? Maybe, well, I think that it's a good sign that I have enough options, different color options, that it makes all of them appealing. That's a good sign. And it also means that I must have done a decent job with my values, because the whole point of working out your values before you go to color is that if your values are done well, then almost any color you want to use should work. So I feel like I've done something right. All right, so I'm going to run through the different serpent options here. Let me make this a little bit bigger here. And you guys are welcome to leave comments here in the stream, in the chat. And then for people watching later, please feel free to leave comments on the, feel free to leave comments on the actual video. Let me know what you think. So we have the reddish orange serpents. That's one option. We've got the gray serpents. That's another option. Then we've got the green serpents. So those are our three options we've got there. And I just need to decide which one I want to go with. You know what, with this gray one, I kind of want to see what happens. Let me just bring the opacity a little bit up more, because I can see that they actually are more blue. Like if I bring them all the way up, you can see that they're full on blue. Well, you know what? Let's say that that's, all right. I know, I'm going nuts here. But we can have, instead of gray, we can have full on blue. And let me duplicate one more, and I'm going to go with like full magenta and see how that looks. So blue, or I am running out of levels. All right, saturation at the max, and we're just gonna go like crazy magenta just to see. Because I know some girls that walk around with some magenta ass hair and it looks tight. Now magenta snakes, that's a whole nother thing. But so mind you, this is without any rendering on the actual flesh tones. This is just me working out my basic colors. But yeah, so let me make sure I have it clear in my mind. Where are my Post-its? My Post-its have vanished. Usually I keep Post-its right by my desk so I can write notes to myself as I'm going. All right. So this is what we've got. We've got magenta, blue, green, orange, and gray. And I tell you, it bugs me that I don't have an even number, because I feel like it makes an easier grid. Like when I post it online to ask for people's opinions, it's much easier to have something in kind of a perfectly square or a perfectly, even numbered format. but I don't want to throw another option in there. This is plenty. This is a lot. I'll figure it out. The formatting is my problem. So anyway, those are the color options. Magenta, orange. Well, it's a really muddy orange. It's practically brown. Orange, blue. Gotta duplicate this. Oh, I hit my limits of layers. So blue, drop this down to 50%. Gray. Or green. I don't know if I even like this green. I feel like cranking up the saturation isn't helping. Yeah, I'm not sure about this particular green. And there we go. Got to undo those marks I made on the screen. All right, guys. So let's see here. Lion Rocks, Desert Snakes. Elon's saying blue or magenta. So I'm going to go ahead and close the live stream out. Anybody who wants to make comments and didn't get a chance to throw them up in the chat, please feel free to leave comments on the video itself. I'm actually going to make an image and post a poll, and I'll post it on YouTube, and I'm going to post it on social media and get different people's feedback and see what they think. I will tell you that I'm probably going to make the thumbnail for this video the magenta one, just because it's so goddamn eye-catching, even if it's not necessarily the best way to go for the piece. We shall see. But I'm going to let the world decide. I'm going to open it up, let the universe into the creative process. You know, that's the whole thing about, you know, doing this stream, doing it this way. I think no matter which color I go with, unless it's the magenta, I'm definitely going to have to go in and paint. I'm going to have to refine the serpents, because with the darker color choices, it becomes very hard to well, with the magenta, you can see the snakes. But with, say, the brown, well, no, I think the orange one is light enough that you can see the serpents there as well. I think with something like actually, you know what? The only one that's really hard to see the serpents on is the green one. The rest of them are all bright enough that you can see them. So I'm talking out of my ass. All right, guys, I've been going on too long. This is pretty nuts. I need to wrap it up. Ion Rock says, pretty sure the magenta snakes would sell. You know what? I don't want to prejudice the poll, but the fact that I already said I'm going to pick magenta for the thumbnail, I think you can see which way I'm leaning. And Mark also says that magenta is nice and bold. Guys, thank you so much for the feedback. This was awesome as always. And let me switch back over to big screen Jeremy. And so for those who enjoy this live stream and feel like you can't get enough of my yammering, you've been on with me for a couple of hours, for like over an hour, and you're like, you want even more, you can become a Patreon subscriber at patreon.com/Jeremy. That's patreon.com/GERIMI. For as little as $2 a month, you get access to 2 bonus live streams per month. Well, actually, it's every other week. So some months there might be 3 live streams. But anyway, those live streams are about 3 hours long. We do something that I call Art Book Study Group, where we look at some of the best art books around, try to suck all the knowledge we can out of it. We also dive into individual topics that are requested by members of our Patreon community. We've done animal studies from Ken Holtzgren's Art of Animal Drawing. We've done Bridgman studies. We've been working lately on Walt Reed's The Figure. But also, I think, you know, we've been getting some recent posts in our critique forum on our Patreon exclusive Discord. And I think what I might do is, anytime that there's a piece that has a request for a critique, to bring that in, and at the start of Art Book Study Group, we'll start with doing critiques over some pieces. Because I realized I was drawing some in my spare time, and I was like, I really got time to do other artwork. I should probably work this into Art Book Study Group. Point being, Patreon exclusive live stream, studying art books. We may also be working critiques, live critiques during that live stream in. It's Patreon exclusive for as little as $2 a month. Patreon.com/GERIMI. Would you like a free digital sketchbook? Would you like to get my artwork delivered right to your inbox once a month, along with whatever I'm reading, watching, whatever is inspiring me creatively, and some more notes on just my thoughts on creativity and my current process? Sign up for my monthly newsletter, newsletter.jeremy.net. It's also, if you guys want to know when the prints for this go on sale, if you happen to miss the post on social media, as long as you check your email regularly, you will get it delivered to your inbox when those emails go out. If I do a timed release for prints, and in terms of doing a limited signed edition, then I will definitely have to make a newsletter specifically to let people know about that, because it's only playing fair. And if you'd like to purchase physical copies of my comics, if you read digitally on Kindle or Comixology, you can go to amazon.jeremy.net or purchase my Amazon author page. You can pick up books like, gotta turn off that ring light because it always blows out the glossy cover. Eye of the Gods. It's my first graphic novel. I'm the artist and the writer. It is a psychological thriller about a man cursed with visions he cannot control. You can pick this book up. You can flip through this book digitally on my YouTube channel. If you just search for book flip throughs, there's a book flip through where I just flip through every page and let you guys check it out. So you can see that. And you can pick up the physical or digital copy on Amazon. You can pick up my most recent comics, Morningstar. It tells the story of Lucifer's fall from heaven as a Western. Volume 1 has issues 1 through 4, the first half of the story. Volume 2 has issues 5 through 8, the conclusion. Both books have extensive back matter, characters, sketches, script excerpts, character designs, what page layouts, some of my reference photos showing you how I use reference to put these comics together. Pick up all that and more at amazon.jeremy.net. Again, guys, thanks for spending time with me, spending time out of your weekend, hanging out, enjoying this creative process, and watching me fumble my way through kind of a dark place in this piece. Like when I started, for those who came in late, if you go back and you watch the beginning of this piece, I was in kind of like I was in the valley of death. I was like, I have a good sketch. I've got a good foundation. I'm not sure how to finish this piece. Just in sitting here with you guys sketching for almost 2 hours, I worked my way through it now. Now I feel like I've got a clear path. So there's something about that creative energy that you guys are sending out. I'm picking it up. I'm picking it up. I'm bringing it in, just that positive creative energy that's out there. We're sharing it and I feel it and it's great. And I'm glad you guys are sharing it with me and I'm happy to share it with you guys. So on that rambling note, thank you. That's it for now. Go be